What is up, subscribers? Sunjetsu here, and today I wanted to go ahead and bring you my list for the top 5 Lizardmen units I would like to see in Total War Warhammer. Now, the addition of the Lizardmen in Total War Warhammer has not been officially confirmed at all. So these are just this is kind of my wish list. Now, I chose these guys only based on what I would like to see. Now, let's go ahead and make it perfectly clear. I am not a tabletop player. I did not choose these guys in this order or just for this list based on their tabletop skill. I chose them specifically on what I think would be cool when it comes to transitioning into a Total War game, or useful based on the unit itself and some of the description of the unit itself as well. I'll be giving very brief summaries of a little bit of the unit. So if you guys are looking for something a little bit more in depth about the Lizardmen, this is not the video that's gonna go too in depth in them. Again, I'm just gonna give summaries. So for those of you guys who already know it all, as I said in my last video, this is mainly for those who don't, or those who want to see what a top 5 list of the Lizardmen from me would look like. Obviously, everyone has their own different lists, so I would like to see you guys put in the comment section below which units you guys would have wanted to see on this list, or which unit you guys want to see the most out of the Lizardmen. So now that I cleared the airways, let's go ahead and jump right in. Number 5 goes to the Cold One Cavalry. Now, these units are especially ferocious from what I've gathered. Now, the cavalry itself, it's going in the same direction, I guess, that I will assume that the Demigryph Knights were gonna go. If you guys remember back then, I had stated that I would like to see, from the description that you get from the Demigryphs, that they claw into the units and just attack them and all this stuff. And we did get a little bit of that when it came to their animations. I would like to go in that direction as well with these guys. Just a basic heavy cavalry unit. It's the Saurus Warriors, which are the main body of unit of the Lizardmen fighting unit. The Skinks are also important when it comes to the basic units of the Lizardmen, but the Saurus Warriors are their meat grinders basically, and basically you just put them on top of a giant lizard called the Cold One. They're ferocious reptiles. This is a heavy unit cavalry, and I thought it'd be really cool to see them on in the game. I'm looking forward to them being in the game if the Lizardmen are added, and that's why they get the number 5 slot. The number 4 slot goes to the Stegodons. Now, these guys, I wanted to go ahead and attribute them in similarity to the arachnid spiders that you see for the greenskins. The goblins are kind of on top. They're very similar when it comes to that aspect. I'm not saying that they're similar at all to the spider. I'm saying that basically you get little skinks on top of the Stegodon, and they shoot darts, poison darts, poison arrows, poison projectiles essentially at their enemies. The Stegodon is very hard to kill, very strong armor, basically a battering ram with 4 legs. The skinks on top use the Stegodon to ram through enemy units, very similar to the unit from the greenskins, where you have the goblins on top shooting arrows, and from any other unit from Total War games where you see men on top of the elephants. Just a similar unit like that. I feel like I was reading up on these guys, and actually I read up on some of their tabletop army builds because I was very curious in them, and a lot of them have these guys in them. So if they're good enough to be in most, from what I've seen, tabletop armies, and just some of the stuff that I've seen from them, I wanted to add them on the list, and that's the reason they get the number 4 slot. The number 3 slot has to go to the Saurus Old Blood. Now, obviously I just touched on the Saurus warriors earlier. They are the meat grinders of the Lizardmen armies. Now these guys are the old blood. Now something that, for those of you who might not know, because there are a lot of you out there, a lot of subscribers that don't know much about the Warhammer verse, and you know, for those of you guys who do know, the Lizardmen Saurus, they don't die of old age. They live for thousands of years. So these Saurus old bloods are ones that have lived for thousands of years. Now the older they get, the more masterful they get in combat and in war. They master war. They get bigger. They are more intimidating. They have thicker and harder scales and armor. Basically, they don't, for the most part, the Lizardmen don't have armor as we would like to see it, or as we see it in the other units, such as the Empire. They have their scales. The scales basically act like armor. So as these Saurus old bloods are very, very hard to kill. Now, what I've seen through these sources, and subscribers or those who are just watching, go ahead and correct me because I'm not 100% sure, but some things speculate that these guys are big, like sizable compared to the regular Saurus. So having only a few of them in a unit would be more ideal. Others say that they are not really that much bigger, so having them in a regular unit such as 120 or whatever the case might be would be appropriate. So for those of you guys who know, put in the comment section below. I don't know which one to go by, but if they are pretty sizable, I would say not many of them in a unit because that would be pretty overpowered. But if they are just slightly oversized, then go ahead and put them on a regular unit. I would like them to be rather expensive, seeing as how they are more an elite unit type, but that's the reason they get this slot. The number 2 slot goes to the Chameleon Skink. Now, some of you might be wondering, especially those of you who know Warhammer lore, why is he at number 2? Why is he so high up on the list compared to some of the other badasses that I put on this list? Well, it's actually quite simple. I like scout type units. I feel like a lot of the games don't have many of them, and if they get them way later on. They get them later down the line in DLC or free DLC form. But scout units are very, very much an effective part of an army. But these guys have an extra ability that makes them very, very powerful, which is they're chameleons. They kind of blend into the background. So what I was thinking with these guys is have basically like a normal type unit size as with the other ones, the Saurus and the other skinks, but have them be able to deploy outside of your deployment zone, obviously, and have their invisibility styled camouflage technique be able to be basically, you can't detect them at all. Now this could be overpowered, but the way you do it is that you hit a special ability, and then they go invisible for say maybe two minutes maybe, or something like that, around that time, and then once 2 minutes is over, then it goes into the cooldown time where you have to wait a certain time before you can use the ability again. But in those 2 minutes, you can do a lot of damage. Now these guys shoot poison darts, and so you'd have to hit units that are susceptible to them. You can't be hitting no high armored units, but I felt like these guys deserve a place on this list. Again, I feel like these guys would be very, very important to an army, especially one of my armies, specifically my armies actually. This is my decision to put them in number 2 slot, and that's the reason that they attain this. The number 1 slot goes to the Kroxigor. Obviously, some of you guys might have already seen or thought about that this was going to be the number 1 slot because it was left out of the other slots, and it's a very important unit in the Lizardmen Army. But I had to put it here. It's basically a giant crocodile with either a giant mace or a giant hammer or a giant axe. And the reason I put them so high up is because I do have a boner for huge monster creatures. I love them. I love the giants in the game. I love anything that's huge, that can throw themselves in there and just slaughter as many units as possible. In regular Total War, I love elephants. I love throwing elephants into the fray. So having these guys go in there, and I'm hoping that some of their animations have them eating the units and things like that, would be amazing. Now, the one reason I think that these guys would be very, very interesting to implement is because the lore really pushes the fact that they don't really think on their own. They are basically told and programmed, sort of, on what to do by the skinks that are controlling them. So having them be in some sort of berserk rage or something where they need to be near skinks to be able to fight, or I don't know how it would implement this kind of little feature. Maybe they are put into a unit of skinks and they're like just part of that unit. Something along those lines. I don't know. Maybe you guys have better ideas than I do on this, or maybe you guys can elaborate if this is as important to put into the game as I would think. But yeah, I'm really, really excited for this unit specifically. I think it would look really, really cool. I definitely would 100% put it in all my armies, but again, this would probably be a very, very expensive unit to put in your armies off the bat. And that's the reason this gets the #1 slot, just because of my own personal taste for it, and just that's actually it. That's my own personal taste. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and again, let me know what units you guys would like to see in the Total War game, in Total War Warhammer, from the Lizardmen specifically, or if some units you should have been on this list that weren't. Go ahead and put in the comment section below. Let me know. Again, this is not the best 5 out of the entire universe of Total War Warhammer based on all these different stats. These are just the ones that I really, really would like to see, and I feel like would transition really cool in the Total War game. So yeah. Anyway, guys, let's see if we can get our 50 likes for these units to eventually be underneath my my mouse cursor so I can play with them. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button to become a subscriber today. This is going to be Sunjutsu signing off. So these are just this is kind of my wish list. Now, I chose these guys only based on what I would like to see. Now, let's go ahead and make it perfectly clear. I am not a table to a Total War game or useful based on the unit itself and some of the description of the unit itself as well. I'll be giving very, very brief summaries of a little bit of the unit for the top 5 Lizardmen units I would like to see in Total War Warhammer. Now, the addition of the Lizardmen in Total War Warhammer has not been officially confirmed at all. What is up, subscribers? Sunjutsu here, and today I wanted to go ahead and bring you my list for top player. I did not choose these guys in this order or just for this list based on their tabletop skill. I chose them specifically on what I think would be cool when it comes to transitioning into